have been recently amended. I think this May, exact date I can't recall, but May 21, we have seen some more amendments in Sebi Lodr. The initiative was basically taken to protect the interest of investors, and more disclosures are being required. So this session will take us through the entire Sebi LODR regulations, starting from the scratch. So that's why we have divided this into two parts. Today, 6:30 onwards, we are having this. And tomorrow, that is Sunday, 6:30 again. The second part will be taken tomorrow. And if we feel the need, then we may also conduct the third session also. So here, I and Ravi, we have basically tried to make it very simple. Some parts which you might be knowing, we have also covered that, because so that even a layman who has not attended any session on Sebi Lodr, that person can also attend all details about the requirements. So this session is basically not only covering the listing requirements, but also the important, there are some gray areas where we discuss with each other, consultants talk to each other that how this should be interpreted. So we will also take care that after the basic discussion is over, if there are some more queries, so we'll also try to address that. So without spending more time on the introduction, I would request CS Ravi Verma to take forward this session. Ravi, over to you. And one last thing, if someone has not got the PPTs, you can WhatsApp me to 98302 59002. I'm repeating, it's 98302 59002. If you haven't received the PPT. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So as rightly, sir has already covered the as rightly said, sir has already covered the basic gist that what we are going to do today and what will be the coverage area. So that is what we are going to do today, and that is what the area we will have coverage. And we are trying our best to make sure that you people, it should help you people at least the best. And you know that why we have designated it into, I am sure that now you people can see the screen. Why we have designed it in such a way, because as sir rightly said, our motto is just a simple one, to make sure that any one of you, whosoever has not studied it or whosoever has not got a basic also even, they will be they will be able to make it clear today. And we'll try to run through the basic provisions only. And I will try my best. That is why we said that we have designated or fragmented this class into two series, that 1 and 2. So today, 1, we will cover the broader areas like the board, committees, and their obligation, rule about the directors and committee. Because see, unless or until we don't know those rules, those audit committees' power, and in fact about the board, how they should function, what happens at times, we have noticed that the other provision becomes very difficult. So how Sebi LODR has evolved? It evolved from the concept, like we all know earlier there was a listing agreement. Erstwhile listing agreement was repealed, and the Sebi has come out with the regulations called LODR, the listing obligation and disclosure requirement. It has witnessed two major amendments. One, you can say, in the month of, say, for example, somewhere in the April 2019. That is the beginning of 1st April 2019. And the other change it has brought in, that has come just now, 5th of May 2021, bringing some radical changes to the governance structure. And the Sebi is, of course, we all know, is acting as a watchdog for the entire market. So they keep on the entire compliance framework, because more so is to promote governance structure. And we know that without quoting any name of the companies, there are a lot of companies, hell lot of companies, which has entered into certain, you can say, transaction, or maybe the directors have acted in a manner whereby they have compromised the governance structure of the company. Basically, this is all about the LODR brief. And when I'm talking about the LODR, you know that I will start with the quote, that the good governance is about not to, like, it's obviously, it's all about the strict compliance, but then not that particular strict. So it is all about your intellectual honesty. If you look at the screen, slide 2, it talks that it is very clear that there is a quote that it should be all about intellectual honesty. It should not be allowed that like I'm very particular about the compliances of particular rules or regulations. So definitely the motive is to promote more and more people towards the governance. That is what the basic framework of this entire SEBI LODR is. Now, having understood this, next question comes, how the board is supposed to discharge its function and what exactly the governance framework structure is. So if you look at the screen, the governance framework itself says that, see, it, you can say further bifurcate it or not bifurcate it, further fragments it into 6 segments, which starts with the role of board duties, which start with the role of independent director IDs. There are a lot of responsibility for the committees as well in the governance framework. There are various policies which are required to be framed under the SEBI LODR for the purpose of governance framework. There are like the directors need to be aware about the investors because after all, every listed company are supposed to discharge its responsibility for the benefit of stakeholders. And how this will be established? This will be established by way of disclosures. If you look at the structure of the Western countries, you will notice that most of these companies believe on disclosures. Why? There are rapid disclosure. The only one reason there are rapid disclosure because they want to ensure that the governance framework structure is there, right? So that is what they want through the governance framework. Like next comes, am I audible? Like if some people are having observation, voice is breaking. So now it's clear, I guess. Yeah, thank you. Now, straight away, I will move to the applicability. See, what is all about the applicability? First, we should know where the SEBI LODR applies. See, SEBI LODR applies not only for equity shares, because I have seen many of the people saying, okay, equity share LODR. No, first and foremost thing, the regulation 3. See, again, in brief nutshell, I will tell you, the SEBI has a regulation, lot of regulation. It extends, if you read, it's 103 regulation. And chapter wise, there are 11 chapter, and then if you go, sorry, 12 chapter, and if you go schedule wise, then 11 schedule. So it is a vast. You can't compare SEBI regulations with any like companies act, etc. Now, question comes when I'm talking about the regulation 3 applicability, it makes it very clear that LODR applies to specified securities first. The second, it applies to NCD. NCD is, of course, we all know, is a non-convertible debentures. It also applies to NCRPS, non-convertible redeemable preference shares, right? Even the perpetual debt instrument are also covered. And security deposit, security receipt, we all know the commercial paper, like etc. They all are getting covered under the LODR. More so, even the mutual funds also get covered and the IDR as well. So having said that the applicability, there is a vast applicability. Now the specified securities would include both equity and convertible. Convertible means, say for example, I have issued the convertible debenture. Yes, of course, it is convertible into equity. That will also be covered under the LODR. So now if you look at the horizon of LODR, I will say it's a 360 degree, covering every aspect. But we will more focus on the equity segment because we all know most of us are working in a listed company, or maybe indirectly, directly, we get work for listed company, which are having like mostly in almost 90% cases, equity shares listed on the stock exchange. So these are the various applicability segment for the LODR. Now, sir, LODR applicability you said, then will you just tell us that what are the common means? Does it apply to various all the regulations? So how will comply? It does apply to all the segment, but then we should be aware of certain common obligation. Because as I said, we will take you through the equity segment, but it should not mean that if you are going towards the equity segment only, that's why we are not going to understand any other segment. We should know the other segments are equally important. So that is why we thought, why not, if we are not going in detail in every chapter, because it will take then a week class. So know the common application. Now, when I'm saying common obligation, it's very clear that this means These regulations are applicable to be it equity, be it convertible security, be it non-convertible security, or be it like NCRPS, or be it like security deposit, security receipt, or be it like mutual funds. It is applicable everywhere, everywhere. Oh, that means that it is applicable everywhere. Yes. Sorry. First is that the regulation 6. What is the regulation 6? The regulation 6 talks about the compliance officer appointment. So, sir, that means I need to appoint a compliance officer. Yes, you need to make an appointment of compliance officer. When you appoint the compliance officer, you know that it will make you more happy to understand that compliance officer under the law should be a qualified company secretary. So now cheer up. It brings a smile on every face. And not only for the companies with the equity segment, for the mutual fund even, they insisted that the qualified, every mutual fund should have a qualified company secretary as a compliance officer, which makes us feel happy that yes, we are having a rule everywhere. And you will be the compliance officer. Nonetheless, of course, compliance officer, the role will not come without any risk, because the more you want to earn, the more you have to take the risk. That is what the principle of this. So that ensures that the profession of company secretary should be given an opportunity or given a responsibility to act as a compliance officer. For the listed segment, you will act as a compliance officer. Now you will be cheer up and they're happy. And you know that now the Sebi LODR norms are so stringent that they're saying that even if you are defaulting in the appointment of compliance officer, there is a per day penalty. So you know that even if the one is leaving CS, then listed companies are in a hurry, and they definitely sooner or later they immediately appoint another company secretary, qualified company secretary, act as a plans. And because of the SOP got implemented post COVID, because earlier it was supposed to get it implemented prior to the COVID period, but then because of this COVID, everything slowed down, and unfortunately, it could not be implemented in time. So SOP was deferred. So now there is a per day penalty. So be aware of this regulation 6. The next regulation which you see on the screen is a share transfer agent, which about regulation 7. I'll take you through in detail because share transfer agent we should know. The next is a preservation of documents. So you know that every listed entity, whether equity, because we are talking about the common obligation. Again, I'm repeating for the sake of you people that it's all about common obligation. It is applicable to all. So this should be applicable to you regarding the preservation of document. Next comes, you should have a grievance redressal mechanism whereby you can address the problem of those like your investors, because ultimately is to take care of the investor. And lastly is the regulation 12, which says how you will give the dividend interest redemption. Because most of your people, we say how we started using RTGS NEFT, why we are using that, because the SEBI encourage on that. Regulation 12 particularly say that you should use this mode. So as far as possible, the listed MPs and all, they use this mode of dispatch of dividend, etc. Now, if you move to the next, as I said, compliance officer, about the regulation 6, which we have already discussed. See, compliance officer duty clearly you can see on the screen. It's all about making a compliance both in letter and spirit. He will follow the procedure. He will make the coordination with the stock exchanges, and he will be monitoring the grievances. So that much responsibility you have. So you have to have a 4 hands on every corner. Right? 4 corners are there, and all the 4 corners are yours. So you have to act as a vigilant compliance officer. Now, compliance officer, sir, we have discussed. What about the share transfer agent? You were saying something on the share transfer agent. Yes, share transfer agent, as you see on the screen now, there can be in-house also and registrar also. See, many times a common question I've seen, a common problem I've seen in people, like people keep thinking that no, it is necessary to have a registrar in the listed company. No, even in listed company, they can opt for in-house facility, right? But if their number exceeds more than 1 lakh, then they have to appoint a registrar category 2. Now the question is there. Say, for example, sir, we have a question because we got to know about the company ITC, and it is also having the in-house. Among the other company also, there are a lot of companies. So it has a number of shareholders. Why not they are having the registrar? See, even if they are not having the registrar, you know that they have created a registrar facility inside. And that registrar facility is also recognized from the stock exchange. It is also approved by the stock exchange. Category 2. So unless or until, please note it, unless or until you have more than, means if it is up to 1 lakh, it's okay. If you are exceeding more than 1 lakh, then please note in any condition, you have to get it registered with the SEBI as a category 2. Otherwise, you will not be allowed to carry this activity. And you have to appoint the registrar if you are not getting your internal segment as a registrar. So, right, that is a thin layer of difference. Like if I'm having 99,000 shareholder, I will have in-house without any registration formality, etc. But if I'm having 2 lakh shareholder, so then two options. Either appoint the registrar, or if I do not appoint the registrar, then my separate team will be there, which will be acting as a registrar. And that separate team will also get registered. Right? So that is as far as the share transfer agent are concerned. Now, sir, who will know that whether they are doing the compliances or not? Who will follow that? See, SEBI has kept everything under control monitoring. What they have done, they have made a target for sure. What they said listed company in any case, whatsoever they are doing in terms of share transfer, whether the transfer are happening in terms of time or not, whether the activities are being monitored by the registrar, whether the registrar is category 2 or not, whether what are the number of shareholders, everything a compliance certificate of this will be submitted. Now, earlier there was a timeline of within 1 month, and from the end of each half. Please listen me carefully. Earlier it was half yearly compliance. Sir, earlier means till 5th May 2021. So, sir, after 5th May 2021, scenario change? Yes. After 5th May 2021, the share transfer agent has to give certificate only once in the financial year, that is within 30 days from the end of financial year. So that means instead of taking 2 certificates from you, the stock exchange is saying give 1 yearly stock exchange certificate. Because see, if I take 2 and if I take 1, it hardly makes any difference, right? So they want yearly compliance. So please be in mind that the share transfer agent compliance has become now yearly compliance from 5th May 2020. So compliance wise also see quarterly compliance will be completed today only. So please take a note of all this, that these are the compliances. Like what I just said is an annual compliance, right? Under regulation 7, sub-regulation 3. So understood, sir. So means everything, even the share transfer agent will be monitored by the SEBI. Yes, yes, everything the SEBI is going to monitor. Each and everything one by one we cover. Next comes when I talked about the policy, that how you will maintain the policies and how you will handle all these policy presentation or documents. The SEBI has a policy on that also. SEBI says under regulation 9, you have to mandatorily maintain a policy that how the data will be protected, how the information will be or document will be protected. So for certain document, they are permanent. Like say, for example, permanent nature, minutes, agreement, power of attorney, legal agreement, sale deed, rent agreement, all these will share certificates, common, all these will come under the permanent. Then they are saying the other document which should not be less than 8 years after the completion of transaction. Say, for example, today I have purchased something. Say, for example, I have not purchased. It was a kind of a service agreement. So I thought it is a service agreement just for the time being. And it was a validity period of 6 months. I thought it is irrelevant. No. If my company has a policy that even this service agreement will be covered under the other category, that is 8 years, I have to keep a copy of that for 8 years in. Sir, my goodness, then I will have a 1 or 2 room in my company separately for all these documents. No need to worry. The SEBI further provides that whatever they have provided under the clause A and B regarding the documents in sub-regulation 9, 1 of 9, they are saying even the same can be stored digitally also. So that means the digital window is open for you. We all know we have gone digitalized. Today we are attending the digitalized virtual classroom. Same way, the SEBI encouraging the virtual, the electronic mode preservation, right? So, sir, preservation we understand very well. Now, you are saying something that there is a grievance redressal mechanism also. It is a common obligation, which again under the regulation 13 is covered. It says that you have to ensure that adequate steps are being taken for resolving the queries of the investors. Who will be responsible? I know you people are just thinking that then, but before that also, I would like to answer that is the duty of compliance officer. You were happy when you were appointed as a compliance officer. So now it's your duty to resolve the issues of investors. So that is covered under regulation 13 sub regulation. Now next question comes is, sir, there is a one thing we heard of a score Sebi complaint redressable system, right? That is online mode. Yes, absolutely right. That is prescribed under again regulation 13.2 that you should have a score mechanism. You should register with the score. All the listed companies mandatorily are required to register with the score. And you know, for practical example, I am telling you, if you in your company, you will go for future action, like say, for example, further issue, right issue, ESOP, bonus, anything you are declaring, corporate action kind of a thing, unless you are score registered, no NSDL, CDSL or stock exchange will come, means execute your transaction. So score registration is mandatory. Now, you know, here also a question comes in mind. Sir, how they will monitor, how the stock exchange will get to know whether I'm addressing the problem or not. Sir, I will not tell them that whether I'm having adequate mechanism or not. See, whether you tell them or not, they have a mechanism. If you can read in the blue dots, that lines are very clear that they are also under the compulsion to file a report within 21 days. Within 21 days means from the end of every quarter. Say, for example, April, May, June. So then from the end of June quarter, they will have 21 days. That is 21st July, they will submit a report. To whom they will submit a report? To stock exchange. What they will write? They will write whether any complaint received during the quarter and what were the complaint at the beginning of the quarter and what are the complaint left at the end of the quarter. Because see, at the last day also, you may have received one complaint which is not resolved. So you will show it as a pending. And then we will try to understand that next quarter you whether resolved it or not. If not resolved, they will take action. And you know, when you go to the practically the portal, because NSE has a NIPS portal and BSE has a BSE listing portal. NSE has a NIPS, BSE has a BSE listing portal. When you upload this report practically, then they will ask you score registration mandatory. So if you don't have a score registration, you can't file it. And if you don't file it, your company has a problem. So see, that is the, like you can say the SEBI is more focused on the investor grievances, right? So sir, so far we have covered the common obligation. Yes, so far we have covered common obligation. Means applicable for all. Appointment of compliance officer, grievance redressal mechanism, and whether it's a preservation of policy document, share transfer agent. Now, since we have covered almost the common obligation, now we go to the specified securities to understand it much better. See, specified security is specifically covered under Chapter 4. Now, Chapter 4 says that it is having a Regulation 15 to all together till Regulation 48, which I was saying about the equity share segment. Now, so vast. It looks like 15 to 48 hours are nothing. We have studied the Companies Act more than 400 sections and then the rules framed thereunder. So 15 to 48 doesn't matter for us. It does matter because LODR, it mainly depends on the strong interpretation and knowing each and everything. And because the CB is so stringent on the compliance part, there is a penalty per day. It's not like that it's for a like fixed threshold. It's per day. And then more so, compounding applications are not entertained by the SEBI in respect of those non-compliance. If the compliance is repetitive, then they may ask you for the freezing of shares. There will be issuance of freezing of shares instruction by the stock exchange that we will discuss in our next series. So I just wanted to know you. I just wanted to tell you that under the Chapter 4, these are the regulation covered. Now, these regulations again broadly are into four segments. Like one segment deals with the board and committee, as you see on the screen. The second segment deals with the compliance part. The third segment deals with the subsidiaries, and the fourth is. So we will go one by one, slowly and gradually, and we'll try to understand. But as usual, before I move to the next, people have a question. Somebody, when I was also deliberating somewhere at that point of time regarding this, had the immediate question, sir, why not there is exemption under the any LODR way? There are certain exemptions should be there. Every listed company, be it a small or be it like see small listed company, even say for example a listed company which is having not that much of fed capital and network, if they are required to comply with so much of onerous regulation, it may become challenging for them. Sir, why not SEBI has considered any exemption? There are exemptions. See on the screen, SEBI is not like that. They will not hear you and they will not entertain all those complaints. They will. So SEBI has given under regulation 15 itself, the sub-regulation 2 gives clear-cut exemption. What is the exemption, sir? Exemption says very clearly that if your paid-up capital not exceed 10 crore, see there is a twin. There are twin and you have to comply with both the condition. That is why there is a plus symbol in between. So these are the twin condition. Both are has to be together. The one they say your paid-up capital should not exceed 10 crore. The second one says your net worth should not exceed 25 crore. So if these two doesn't cross, when sir, when I will take on a particular date or on a particular year, I will take on the last day of the previous financial year. So if it doesn't exceed, I will get exemption. So sir, exemption will be from compliant or completely severe ODR? No. Please do write it immediately that this exemption is not a blanket exemption. Exemption is only from regulation 17 to 27. So that means common obligation and every other compliances will require regulation 17, 17 to 27 will not be triggered. But till 27, yes, that means board, committee related, obligation of directors, and various other like other obligations of senior management officers, plus RPT, and then material subsidiary. All these will not be triggered for the purpose of this listed company which are exempted. So regulations 17 to 27, again I am repeating, are exempted only for the purpose of exemptions, not blanket exemption. Even they need to apply for the common obligations and etc. Right? Secondly, with addition to this, apart from this, if you are SME stock exchange, then again you will get the same kind of exemptions. Right? So these exemptions get up. Sir, one question. So say for example, this limit is now breached. My better capital certainly increased. Let's say for example, even I was not aware, but suddenly I came across from the financial year it has increased. So from when these all regulation will become applicable in 17 to 27? Because if it becomes applicable the next day, then I have to appoint immediately the board of directors, independent balance board of directors, various committee need to constitute. So how I'll do in one day? You don't need to worry. SEBI thinks of you. They are aware. They are the watchdog. They know, right? So what they have decided, they said, you do not need to worry. What we will do, we will give you the window of 6 months. 6 months to comply with. So 6 months is good enough. Yes, 6 months is good enough. And 6 months will make you to comply with the regulations in a comfortable zone. So that means 6 months I will have a window to comply with this applicability, right? Yes, 6 months you will have to apply from this applicability. But if you cross that threshold, then of course you will be penalized for everyday compliance. So sir, understood that this means that exemptions from the only particular 17 to 27 are there, and that too again twin condition both needs to be satisfied, right? Absolutely. After exemption, now straight away to the board and committees. See, first I will start with the board and committees because it's very clear. We sorry, we always think that it is applicable to board, but it is equally extending towards the committee. And all the committees are well covered from the regulation 18 to 21. So it becomes applicable to the committees as well. And one by one, we will come covering the board and the various committees. Sir, can you just, before moving, can you just tell us about some committees? Yes, you can see on the screen there are certain committees like Audit Committee, Regulation 18, NRC 19 Regulation. NRC is the Nomination and Remuneration Committee. SRC, Stakeholder Relationship Committee, Regulation 20. Risk Management, that is Regulation 21. All these committees are also covered under the Sebi LODR. And these are also getting triggered under the LODR, means they have also need to comply. So first, let's start with the board. Let's strictly jump to the board composition. Let's see, first and foremost challenge under the LODR. We all know the Companies Act, we heard of Companies Act requires a long threshold to comply with the requirement of independent directors and all, right? You have to match both the paid up capital, borrowing, and in terms of loan, etc. Right? All these conditions, if you trigger, then you will go to the independent directors requirement. Even same for the women director, where you go for the 100 crore paid up capital and 300 crore turnover, which is pretty high. Then only you are required to appoint a women director. Here, that is all about the Companies Act. But SEBI is very stringent. And you know, when the clash is there, the stringent will prevail. People have a lot of queries also. Like many people have asked me in the past, where it is written that the stringent law prevails. It is a very well settled principle of law that the out when the two laws are conflicting with each other and when they are having the clear zone, like they are acting in their jurisdiction only, then the stringent will prevail. If they are from the both different jurisdictions, then yes, of course, it doesn't apply. But if they does apply, then they have to comply with. And more so, when you enter into listing under the SCRA, Securities Contract Regulations Act, then you are bound to comply with this under their section 121, right? So that compliance is coming from the SCRA itself. So now, sir, here what is the composition under this LODR, as you are saying? See, under the LODR, you can see on the screen, there are certain stringent applications. Like it says, the board should be optimally constituted. What exactly? It with the executive and non-executive director both. I always say it's a Britannia 50-50. Why? Because it says, see, with at least one women director and not less than 50% should be non-executive. So that means executive plus non-executive plus one women director. All this will be there with the minimum 50% non-executive director. Clear? So that is written first sub-regulation of 17, which deals with the board, clearly indicates that. So understood, sir. We should have an optimum combination. Means executive, non-executive plus one women director. And non-executive director should be minimum 50%. Why? To make a transparent board. Because if all are executive, then they will do some goop up, may do some. So basically, non-executives are brought up with the intention to bring that the outsiders are there, they will keep monitoring on behalf of stakeholders. Sir, can there be situation like all are non-executive? Yes, there can be situation, all are non-executive. But SEBI always encourage that it should be balanced. Some executive directors should also be there because executive director are the one who will monitor the company's activity from day to day. SEBI encouraging the combination. Yes, sir, understood. So optimum combination we understood. Sir, is there minimum number of director required? Like in the Companies Act, we heard minimum 2 for the private company, minimum 3 for the public company. So here also you are going to say something like that. Yes, you understood rightly that I am about to say this, that here there is a minimum requirement to have 6 directors. 6 directors, yes. Top 2000 companies should have, with effect from 1st April, we have already crossed that. So they should have minimum 6 directors on the board. It is also written under the 17 regulation, sub-regulation 1, and then further the clause C, right? That it should have minimum 6 directors. So that means minimum 6 plus we should have a optimum combination. Optimum combination means executive, non-executive director should have been balanced. With the example, it will become very clear. Now you on the screen, you can see the explanation. See, our board, say for example, is having 8 directors. I thought yes, Ambaniji, Mukesh Ambaniji should lead because he's now the Asia's richest person, and in fact, one of the eminent industries of India, one of the topmost industries. So we thought make him MD and CEO. So Ambaniji has become MD, CEO, and the chairman of our company. He is the executive director. With him, there are some 3 other executive directors for the different divisions. What he thought that he was told about the Sebi Lodr provision, so he said, okay, do bring the non-executive independent directors. It's not necessary. See, again, it depends. We will come later on. That non-executive here means non-executive. Non-executive can be both independent, non-independent. But all independent are non-executive for sure. He said, okay, you bring Mr. Premji, you all can see on the screen. I hope you all can recollect the name of those eminent industries. He brought Mr. Kumar Mangalam from the builder. Then he said, why not bring Mr. Tyagi, Ajay Tyagi? He's the SEBI chairman, you all know, third person. So he said he will also monitor the compliance of the vigilance on the investors, stakeholders. He will be there to guide us, advise us. And then, yes, of course, Mrs. Shashikant Das, we all know RBI governance. So basically, we have all the eminent personalities on the board to serve as a non-executive director. So my question is that whether I can see either whether I can say that this board is duly constituted or properly constituted, whether I can say so. I thought that let you people make bit interesting through the chat. Whether having said that, what we have seen the screen, can we say that it's a like constituted? Yeah, oh, very good. People are having all a lot of answers. So good, make it interactive. Thank you. Yeah, well, answer is no. You all can see on the screen. Why no? Because they are saying women independent director are missing. And if you notice, all the girls are messaging that no, women directors are not there. Make them appointed because it's a pretty their domain. Today we are saying one, maybe in the future threshold will also increase. They will be maybe 2 or 3. So they are only messaging, no, sir, please get up one independent director appointed, means one women director appointed. We said, okay, we listen to them. By हमारे अम्बानी जी बोले he got appointed Neeta Ambani ji, right? We all know, and she is again, and no doubt, a good industries as well as a good entrepreneur in various activity. We all know the IPL. We all know that at one point of time, Reliance Committee where she played Reliance World Cup Committee where she played active role. So these she has been brought in. Now my question is that with her on the board now, is it proper constituted? Can I say so? Is it properly constituted? Yeah, many questions. Those who know, they've started answering on the chat box. So I just also looked at the chat box. That the again answer has come no. Sir, why no? Why has again the answer has come as a no? See, again the answer has come no for one reason. Sir, what is that one reason? The one reason, if you look at the screen, it says that you should have, because from the 1st April 20 onwards, you need one independent women director. One independent women director on the board. So we have voted Indra Nuri, we all know, right? The name doesn't need introduction. So she has come as a one independent director. So now, yes, sir, now we are happy that you can say that your board is properly. Yes, now we can say that the board is properly constituted. Correct? So this is the brief just to make you involved and to make you understand that yes, what is called the optimum combination of executive directors, non-executive directors, and the one women independent director. But again, remember, one independent women director is only for top 1,000. Sebi Lodr are a bit hodgepodge because at times it talks about top 1,000, at times it says about top 500, top 100. So please do retain those threshold on your mind that it is again for top 1,000 and top 1,000 companies only. If the company is beyond that only, then it will not be required. So one independent women director. So Mukesh ji brought that, let it be. Let us appoint Ms. Nuri as a independent women director, and the board was validated by you people. Now SEBI says that, see, don't worry, we have again certain regulation. What is the regulation? You can see on the screen. It says we will bring certain regulation for the independent directors as well. will be the requirement for the independent. They are saying, see, if your board is having executive director as a chairperson, then your half of the board can be independent. Independent will be required. Why? Because to ensure more and more transparency. Because if they are independent, then yes, at least board is being governed towards the interest of state. But if they are, say for example, chairperson is non-executive himself, the one who is not involved into day-to-day affairs, then they are saying कि one third se chalega, right? And the last bullet, third bullet, I will correct it. It should not read as at least one third. Rather, please read it as at least half. The third point you all are seeing on the screen, it is again to be repeated as at least half. Because the reason being, the director is non-executive. But what happens is that being non-relative, the non-executive chairperson is related to promoter or is relating to the person one level below the board. So say, for example, I'm just giving you the practical insight. In our case study, which we are sharing with you, if we make Nita Maniji as a chairperson, then there will be an issue because then half of the board should be, right? In any case, the executive director also, like I'm just sharing a thought. See, today the scenario in our company, Mukesh Ambani is the MD and CEO and chairperson. So yeah, of course, since he is an executive chairman, so I need at least half of the independent director, right? At least half of the independent director. I thought let Nita Maniji be the chairperson so that we can get some benefit. No, we will not get benefit. Why? Because the reason being, if at all I make Nita Maniji as a chairperson, so he will not out as a non-executive director. She is a non-executive director, but then she is relating to the promoter. She is herself a promoter. So again, the one half of the board will be required. But if any other non-executive director is a chairperson, then my work will be done with at least one third of it. Because I can rely that the person is non-executive, he will give the true picture. Outsider. So when we say that outsider hai, neutral hai, independent आदमी है, तो अच्छा बोलेगा. That is the scenario, right? Moving to the next, you will find. Let's go back and let's check our board. If you look at our board, we are having a total 10 directors because you can see that numbers are also getting changed on the top with the Nita Maniji's induction and the Indra Nuri's reduction. We have got 6 non-executive and the 4 executive directors. Let's check out whether we are in compliant with or not. How we will check? See, first, whether we will check our chairperson is executive or not. It's very clear from the screen, he is executive. So if he is executive, I will need half of the board as the independent, right? Again, here there is a one grammatical error. We have taken total 9, so it should be 10 half and it will become 5. And we are having a 5 independent directors. You can see we are having the 5 directors, right? You all can see. And all 5 are having an independent director. So yes, we will make you, and of course, we have made some intentionally these grammatical, this arithmetical error, so that if you are in a need or proper need में जगे हो तो हम लोग कहते हैं सो रहे हो तो जगे जग जाओ. To check your mind, yes, many of you find out that 10 and half of the 10 should be 5, and we are having a 5 independent, so that's not a worry. So we are happy. So till moment my board is completely okay. I'm very happy. But suddenly I got a stop. Why? Because the reason for this, I got a sudden news from the market that there should be segregation of role now. What is segregation of role? The segregation of role, the Sebi wants to emphasize that again, right? Top 500, not top 100 or top 1000. Top 500 companies, Sebi says they should ensure that their chairperson should be a non-executive director. Okay, very good, sir. So, sir, don't worry, sir. We will make Netaji because we have again half of the independent director. So, we will make Netaji Ambani as a non-executive director, sir. Not to worry. Read the point B, which says not relating to the MD, CEO, and MD and CEO, they should not be relatable at all. In fact, if they are related, then yes, Even they are, say, for example, they will be considered as related, even if they are a promoter category. In our case, Nita Ambani ji is a promoter category. So she will become a like related in any case by deemed virtue provision also. So what will happen here? You can't make her chairperson. So sir, then we have to think of somebody else as a chairperson. So sir, that means he has to relieve position. Yes. If you want to be the MD and CEO, non-executive director who is a neutral, independent, having no association, will come as a chairperson for this company. Sir, one thing, say for example, if say for example, where we are all discussing that this is related or not. Sir, why this clause will be applicable in professionally governed? Means say for example, if there are no promoters in the company, so all directors will be professional then. Like say for example, again I'll give the example. Like if we talk about the Reliance, if we talk about the L&T, they all are gone by the promoter-based entity. Mr. Nayak, Mr. Mani are having some holding. So these are basically for the promoter-based company. That segregation of roles should be there. So then, sir, what do you mean to say that promoter-based company? That means if the company is professionally governed, like say for example ITC, etc. Like ITC, they are not having a promoter. Though British American Tobacco holds shares in ITC, but they are not means considered as a promoter. They have not disclosed themselves as a promoter. So if there are no promoter in the company, regulation will not be. So please ensure that tomorrow onwards, don't advise every top 500 company to follow this. Only where the promoters are there. Where there are no identifiable promoter, this doesn't apply because they are professionally executive managed. So if promoter base is managed, segregation of rule. But again, you can see it is from 1st April 2022. 2022, it's a very much long time. Yes. Why? Because considering this pandemic situation and its ongoing continuity, the second where we all know we are passing through, the Sebi has decided that this not be imposed right now, rather it be imposed from 2022. It was supposed to be imposed from the 1st April 2020, but then they have deferred it considering this situation. So now we don't know further extension or not, but then we have to also think of constituting our board. Now people have started asking questions that who will be the next chairperson, who will be the next chairperson or chairman. See, if you look at the scenario, next scenario, it will be very clear that yes, of course, I cannot choose Neeta Ambani. Again, I marked across there because if I choose her, then no segregation of role because non-executive director plus not related to MD. She is related to MD. She is a promoter, so she can't be. So I have to think of either making Indra Noori, Ajit Premji, Kumar Mangalam, Mr. Tyagi, or Mr. Shashikant, any one of them as a chairperson. Oh, sir, now we got it, sir. We are very clear. But sir, just one thing, can you clarify that are they are going to apply, make themselves today only? No. It's from 1st April 2022. And it is only for those companies where promoters are identified. And sir, it is also applicable only for top 500 from 1st April 2022. Sir, now the balance composition constitution is very clear. Sir, can we just have one more question if you don't mind? Yes, go ahead. Sir, my question is that you said the balance composition should be there. Means executive, non-executive, and the one women independent director, right? So, sir, we understood all this composition. And they should be maintained throughout. But sir, tell me of this situation. Say, for example, if one ID resigns, means independent director resigns, then what should I do? See, it is as per the Companies Act also, and it is as per the Sebi Lodr also. Because under the Companies Act, Schedule 4 is very clear, and the Sebi LODR is very clear that if any one of the independent director resigns, then either 3 months from the vacancy or immediate next meeting, whichever is later, which was not earlier. See, why not earlier? Because say today one independent director is resigned, and if tomorrow is my next meeting, so don't you think it's too early? So they have given whichever is later. Means in any case you can't cross 3 months. 3 months is the upper cap, right? Within 3 months from the vacancy, that is upper cap. So you have to appoint within 3 months, but whichever is later. So if say for example 3 months you are not having, you are having a next meeting, then that will be prevailing. I will just tell here when I mentioned about the 3 months cap, 3 months cap is for the purpose of from the vacancy. But then situation might come. Say, for example, today is resigned, and you know that our board meeting gap can be 120 days. So I have my board meeting today only, and today is resigned. So if I'm having my immediate next meeting after 120 days, maybe say for example, sorry, within 120 days, but on the 120th day or 119th day itself. So sir, there 3 months will prevail? No. Because what we were thinking that 3 months, no. Here they are saying letter. Letter means whichever is the last one amongst the both event. If I'm having board meeting, say for example on 100th day, 101st day, 102 second day, 103 third day, so it will be like that only. But whichever is later, I should comply. If I do not, then yes, I will be penalized. Right? For every day penalty again, not penalty for entire this event, penalty every day. Sir, what one thing? Say for example, one director resigned, independent director, and I have again still a balanced independent director. Say I am required to appoint 5 independent directors, but I am having on my board 7 independent directors. So if one resigns, then also I should comply with this. No, this will only be complied when your composition goes wrong, like when your composition falls below the threshold. Otherwise, if you're following with all the condition, you don't need to comply with. Sir, understood. Sir, but then can you tell me one thing also? What if ED resign? No worry, ED resign, then Sebi is this bothered. Sebi says it's good. Governance wise, your board is gone by the independent director. So good. Whenever you want to appoint, appoint. Because that is the law, threshold limit is there under the Companies Act. We all know for the whole time key managerial person, you have a period of 6 months to appoint. So if you're required to appoint your full-time directors as a key managerial person, follow the Companies Act, but we don't have any problem. Oh, so that means they are not having any problem with the independent director resignation. Not at all. But sir, just one thing. Can you tell me, like say for example, if one independent director is appointed, if there is an appointment and because of this appointment, hear me out clearly, if there is appointment and because of this appointment, my balance get compromised. Like say for example, in this structure, I'm having like I'm just taking a practical example, case study of what we have discussed today. We have a 10 directors on the board, right? Mr. Mukesh Ambani and the other EDs, 5 IDs. So 5 IDs and 5 ED. Balance composition. Because I am required to have half of it because of Mr. Mukesh Ambani. So I'm already having 5 balanced position. So it is there. But now tomorrow, Mr. Mukesh Ambani thought as a succession planning, I should give a chance to bring, like say for example, his son, and he said, why not he be inducted on the board? Now his son is when he's coming as a ED. Now problem is what that happened. You know that we are having 6 ED plus 5 independent director. That means I'm not complying, and then you just read it 6 plus 5. How much it is? Mathematically 11. And if 11 ka half, because regulation says half of the board should be independent. So if I do 11 ka half, it becomes 5.5. So if 5.5 it becomes, that means I'm in non-compliance because I'm having only 5 IDs. I need one more ID. So immediately when you are appointing a new ID, immediately you should appoint one non-ID. Sorry, that means non-ID. That means ID. Why? Because otherwise your balance composition will not be there. So immediately, even I will not get 1 day time. Yes, you will not get 1 day time. Say if I'm approving my, like Mukesh Ambani is approving the appointment of his son today only, today only you need to have ID. Otherwise, tomorrow there will be 1 day non-compliance. Then day after tomorrow, 2 days non-compliance. The third day, 3 days non-compliance. Till the moment you appoint ID to balance the board, you will continue to be non-compliant. Oh my God, sir, so stringent in this condition. Yes, so stringent in this condition. So far we have discussed all the nitty-gritty of the boards, how the board should be like optimum combination, what will be the constitution of independent director, how many non-IDs required, one women independent director will be required from when, for which companies, segregation of role, right? The next question immediately we will come to you because mine is, sir, now let's talk about the board's role. Sir, is there any difference between, or is there any like new thing in the frequency and quorum? See, there is nothing new. In fact, the Sebi Lodr is more or less in terms of frequency is equally like at 4 meetings, 4. That's so simple. So it is 4, sir. Yes. But in terms of your quorum, it says something extraordinary in terms of the Companies Act. Companies Act says 1/3 or 2, whichever is higher. Again, the Companies Act says 1/3 or 2, whichever is higher. Whereas your CB order says 1/3 or 3, whichever is higher. Again, it is applicable for 2,000 companies. Top 2,000 from when? From the 1st April 2002. Like almost all companies are covered indirectly, I would say. Right? Because BSC and NSE, if you look, these are the companies which are listed. So if you look at the entire scenarios, then almost every company gets covered. 1/3 or 3, change the language, 1/3 or 3, whichever is higher. And plus, one independent director has to be there in the quorum at any meeting. In listed company, if no independent director has come to the meeting, your meeting is invalid. Oh my God, sir, independent director should be there. Yes. So indirectly, with the independent director there in the meeting, you know, the shorter notice validation, which we have studied in the act, if independent director is not there, or if independent director has not come to the meeting, then ratified by the majority of director, that concept doesn't become applicable in the listed company. Because listed company, quorum will be clear only with one independent director coming and joining the quorum. And if since he is there, so it will be ratified. So you don't need to circulate it and get it ratified by the majority of directors. But at least one independent director should be there. And that is why they have increased it to 1/3 or 3, whichever is higher. In not only in the board, since we are discussing about the board, in the committee quorum also, when we'll go to the committee quorum, it will make easy for you. You should make it very clear. Everywhere in the board or committee, they want quorum should have one ID. Quorum should have one independent director present in the meeting, because SEBI believes if independent directors are there, then they will take care of the right. So the board and frequency and quorum, frequency is same as per the Companies Act. Quorum is a bit different, right? Now the SEBI has another obligation on the directors as well, because as I was telling you, they are putting more responsibility on the directors. For what? For the compliance purpose. Because they are saying you are there to act on behalf of the stakeholders. They are making the directors responsible. So they have put a limit also on the maximum directorship. Sir, on the maximum directorship, there is a limit. Yes, there is a limit. You know, this regulation has been brought in new. This regulation is 17A, and it has been brought in effective from 1st of April 2019. Oh, sir, it has been brought in effective from then. So yes, when it was brought in at that point of time, then it was made applicable for the top 1,000. But now from 1st April 2020, it is applicable for top 2,000 companies. Sir, what is this top 2,000 companies applicability? They say that your director should not act, including alternate directorship whatsoever, as independent director in more than 7 listed entities. 7 listed companies, they are having a limit. Yes, they are having a limit. Why? Because they are saying this limit will help them to focus more on the business of the company. Sir, how they will focus more on the business of the company? Because see, for example, if I am devoted towards 10 of things, I may not be able to focus effectively. But if I am limited, I'll be able to. So in case of independent directorship, only 7. Saat, right? So that means that there is a cap that you can be there in the maximum 7 companies only. Sir, but Companies Act has a limit of 20. Yes, that is limit. There is a 20. See, in 20 also there is a filtration. 10 public, 10 private, right? They are saying that you can't have a more than 10 in the public, right? So there is a limit also under the Companies Act. Similarly, here also they say is out of that 20 only 7 listed. You can go into other companies, that is okay. Look into the private company, public company, I hardly it doesn't depend for the SEBI. That is for the Companies Act to take overall limit. But then for SEBI purpose, not more than 7 listed. Because if say, for example, I am in 20 listed company, I have to reduce it to 7 immediately. From 1st April, it has already become effective. But there is a one more stringent condition. What is the more stringent? They are saying, if I am already MD of a company, say for example, I am acting as a like Mukesh ji in our board. Let's take example of Mukesh Ambani ji. He is already MD of a company, right? Now he can take only 3 independent directors. Say, like from our case studies, let's me ask you practical example. Mr. Shashikant, if he wants to take directorship, how many directorship he can take? He can take 7 listed. Why? Because he is acting independent everywhere. So if you are acting independent everywhere, take 7 listed independent. But if Mr. Mukesh Ambani wants to appoint, get the independent directorship, कि चलो हम भी independent director बन जाएंगे किसी किसी company में offer आया है, he cannot take more than 3 because he is already MD. And since you are already MD, logic is there. You have to devote your more time towards the operation. You have to devote your more time towards the business. So if you are already business in the engaged in the business, how you will devote time to the other company? They have cut it to the. Similarly, under the Sebi Lodr, there is a limit on the committee membership, not only the board. In fact, the committee, before we discuss, there is a cap on that also. Under Regulation 26, as an obligation of directors, it says out very clearly that for them, overall of limit of committee membership will be 10 overall. Means if they are going for overall committee membership, it will be limited only towards 10. And chairmanship of the committee, they will include 5. Now, please, people do read it different, like 5 chairpersonship plus 10 membership. No, the moment you are a chairperson of the committee, you are considered as a member as well. Say if I am a board member, like chairman of the board, like Mukesh Ambani is a chairperson of our board. So you can't say he's not a director. He's a director as well. So if you are a chairperson, you are a member as well. So 5 members, 5 chairpersonship, overall 10 members. So, sir, all the committees will be considered. So far, SEBI only count 2 committees. What are the 2 committees? One is the audit committee, and one they count is the stakeholders relationship committee. The rest all committee, like nomination the management committee, risk management committee, CSR committee, IT steering committee, all they are not counted at all. Only these 2 committees are counted. So, sir, these 2 companies will be counted. The committee members will be counted for all the companies. No, it will be counted only for all public companies, whether listed or not. All public. Please don't believe it's all listed, because see, when I talk about the maximum directorship, 7 listed company. So people think, okay, 10 this committee membership is a listed. No, it is public company. Here there is a catch. Even they are covering the public company also. Means overall your committee membership, including in public company, should be 10. So public company also, yes. So when you are taking, you should be very careful. So sir, you mean to say overall cap will be limited within the 10? Yes. And similarly, like the chairpersonship will be restricted to 5. And it is the director's duty at the rate at the bottom. You can see a red line indicator where says every director shall inform the listed company as and when the changes does happen. It is the duty of director. See, despite all this duty, as I was telling you, SEBI is very particular on the promoter's activity. SEBI is very particular on any benefits being passed on to any director extraordinarily. SEBI says all the directors should be treated at par. No director should take benefit of undue advantage with being close connection with the management. So SEBI has also bring in a frame for the remuneration as well. The remuneration as well, yes. We always read the Companies Act and we feel happy from there, because we have got certain limits under the 196, 197 under the Act, and then there is already a schedule for us. So we always check the schedule threshold and then the sections. And we always have paid from the, like you, from the very beginning of the career. जब बचपन से थे ना हम पढ़ते आते थे कि वो 5% for one executive directors, 10% for overall executive directors, and 11% for including both full time directors and part time directors. ये सर अपने बचपन से ही पढ़े हैं. और अभी सर एक नया इंटरेस्टिंग सुने हैं कि 197 12 exempts कि that no need to make application to central central government. Just go to shareholders and get it approved. Yes. तो ये सुनने के बाद तो सर हम लोग और पूछ सके that now our tension is reduced. Absolutely, many people are happy after reading there, but then they do not read, unfortunately, the Sebi LODR provision. So Sebi LODR, how it will help them? Because Sebi LODR has a different limit. If you look at the first itself, they put a boomerang on the NED. They are saying if any one of your NED is getting more than 50% of total NED salary, say for example, in our case study, we were having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 6 NEDs, if I'm right. Correct? 6 NEDs were there. Say to 6 NEDs, I'm paying in total 20 crore. 20. And Nita Maniji, I'm paying itself 11 crore. Rest 9 crore goes to the remaining 5. So that means out of the total NED is 20 crore and you are paying more than their total, like 50% is 10 crore. So if you're paying Nita Maniji herself 11 crore, Sebi has a problem with that. Sebi says, no, you can't do that. You can't treat one NED very specially. And that too giving more than 50% of total NED salary. So go to the shareholders approval. Without shareholders approval, you can't get there. So just see, they're keeping the management very at a different level from the NEDs. They're not allowing NEDs to come close to the management. Correct? So that is first for the NED. Next, for the ED, not for all the executive director. As I said, for the promoter, especially they are having I. They are saying if your ED is a promoter and there is only one ED, then you can pay them higher of either give them 5 crore or 2.5% of the net profit. Means give them either 5 crore or give them 2.5% of net profit. Beyond that, if you are giving, then go to the shareholder. If you are crossing that limit, say for example, I am like say for example, my 2.5% higher, it says higher, right? So if my 2.5% profit comes 6 crore, I can pay 6 crore because it's higher, right? But if my 2.5% comes 3 crore, but still I can avail up to the limit of 5 crore because higher. Because Sebi says this is the amount you can pay to the ED higher. But if you are crossing that, please go to the shareholder. Right? Similarly, if they are saying there are one or more, like say, for example, there can be incidences, like as I said, if Mukesh ji wanted to induct his son as an executive director. So when 2 executive directors are there on the board, when 2 executive directors came onto the board, then the total limit will be 5% of net profit. I remember it a very simple way, that whatever the limit is under the act, it gets reduced half. For one executive director under the act is 5, here it is 2.5. For all executive directors under the act is 10, here it is saying all executive directors, if they are relating to promoter, 5%. So half of the limit, right? Plus, independent directors are not entitled to ESOP, that we all know, because sir, that too under the Companies Act, the first thing we have studied. Sir, at times we, like, as you were discussing about all these restriction that board constitution, independent directors should be there, their maximum directorship should be limited, maximum committee membership should be limited. We just were thinking that, wondering, is there any age restriction also, like they can't act as a director if they are getting aged or old? Yes. Even, the Sebi Lodr is very vigilant on that. They are saying that if you are non-executive or ID, say, first of all, I'll give a disclaimer. For the executive director, the LODR has no specific provision. What I have written, minimum age or maximum age, is from the Schedule 5, right? Because we all know under the Schedule 5, minimum age has to be 21. Otherwise, आप 18-19 साल में बोर्ड में बैठ जाओगे तो क्या ही समझाओगे, बेचारे बोर्ड वाले उठ के भाग जाएंगे. Minimum age is 21, they are saying, and they are saying maximum age can be 70 for the EDs. But still, see, maximum age doesn't mean कि sir 70 हो गए तो board छोड़ दें. अभी भी people are acting because they get it passed through the SR, special resolution, right? But for the IDs also, the act, this LODR prescribes the minimum age 21 and the maximum age 75. बोला ID है चलेगा, ठीक है, बोलो तो ID है. एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर थोड़ा यंग होना चाहिए, थोड़ा फिट रहे, 70 तक उनको लगता है फिट रहता है. But this is what the regulation thought, but actually 60 maybe tell that. And we don't know our times when maybe the 50 we will start getting aged. So the maximum age in case of non-executive director, they are saying 75. Sir, what if they have crossed the 75? Not an issue. They are saying the moment they are reaching the 75, pass a special resolution. And that also has come effective from 1st April 2019 by virtue of insertion of new sub-regulations 1A in the regulation 17. So this is again a new insertion by the SEBI that the maximum age is crossing 75, then please get it passed through the SR. Next, I will straight away go to the various committees. I've already told you about this name of the committees, that these are the committee. But prior to making a move, I just wanted to highlight a one point that if you look at the risk management committee, it has a side window, which says that perhaps it is the only committee which is having non-director as member. Yes, absolutely you're writing. It means you're reading it very clearly. Risk management committee is not a director's committee. Risk management committee, it can have a members from the company, senior executives of the company, right? So we always never considered risk management committee as a director's committee or a board committee. But yes, of course, for the Sebi Lodr compliance, it is covered. So straight away, I'll go to the constitution. Now it will become very easy because see, most of the things are there under the act also. Like audit committee minimum 3. Regulation 18 says so. In fact, act says so. NR committee minimum 3. Regulation 19 says so. And even the act says so. SR committee, yes, of course, nowhere it is mentioned in the act, but we read, but then LODR says minimum 3. And it is also mentioned in the regulation 20. So this minimum 333 across all, it is applicable for all listed companies. Now, risk management committee, why I mentioned minimum 3 members? Because even the senior executives can be the member of this committee. So I have not mentioned minimum 3 directors. I have written specifically 3 members to draw your attention. But one rider is there. Majority of director should be member of this committee. So say, for example, if I constituted a committee with 3 members, 1, 2, 3, I should have 2, if 2 out of it from the directors. If I have a 5, then I should have 3 as a director. If I have 4, then 2 as a director. Right? Majority of directors should come on the board. Even in the, sorry, I'll correct because reading the 4, out of the 4 also 3 will come because the majority, right? It will not be, majority should be from the directorship. Now, why they have allowed senior executive? There is a one catch here, just for your understanding, I would like to highlight that, say, for example, in my company, CFO wants, and my company having a risk officer also, they should become a member of this committee because they will be guiding them. Because risk management committee is very vital. So, sir, is it applicable for all risk management company also? No, risk management company is only applicable for top 1,000 company. Sir, it has become top 1,000. Yes, a new change has been made on 5th of May 2021. The SEBI has made announced that instead of 500 companies, it will be applicable to top 1,000 companies. So now the risk management committee is applicable to top 1,000 companies. So, sir, these committee are there. Now, in these committee, ID requirement is there? Yes, very much. See, everywhere it is encouraged to have IDs, be it a committee or be it a quorum or be it a board. Here, the catch is in the audit committee, it is not majority like the Companies Act. In the audit committee says 2/3 shall be independent. So, if say, for example, I have a 6-member committee, so 6 cut 2/3 will be 6 2s are 12. 12 divided by 3 comes 4. Means 4 should be independent. 2/3. 2/3 मेजोरिटी होता है ना, 2/3 बहुमत. अभी भी सभी दिखेंगे इलेक्शंस तो सभी समझ लोगे 2/3 बहुमत से आना, right? So that means 2/3. And NR committee, the independent director requirement is simply like the act that 50% at least should be independent. SR committee is different from the act because SR committee में regulation 20 sub regulation 2A says one ID should be there. Act नहीं बोलता है. Right? But LODR says one ID should be there. And in fact, in the risk management committee, earlier there was no requirement, but with the amendment, they have made it categorically that one independent director should be there. Means majority of directors तो रहेंगे ही. उसी में से out of the majority of directors, one should be independent. They want independent. Actually, in the case of all the committees, that independent director should come out on the board more and more numbers so that they can guide the company in a very well manner, right? Because that is what the intent. Perhaps the intent is to make sure that the independent directors should be there in the board and the committee, because there is much wider, right? Now, next question comes, sir, who will chair the meetings? In case, as far as who will chair the committee is concerned, always ideas are encouraged. Like in the audit committee, yes, of course, independent director will chair. Sir, if say, for example, I'm talking about nomination commission committee, independent director will chair. SR committee, still they says it should be, they have not problem even if the non-executive director chair. That is very clear under the regulation 20. That says that even the non-executive director can chair the meeting. Similarly, in the risk management also they say it can be the non-executive director. Now, why they say non-executive director? One reason, because they also know for one particular reason that at times, you know, the SR committee and the risk management committee are like घर का मामला है. तो घर के मामले में अगर कोई नॉन एग्जीक्यूटिव भी रहने दो, इंडिपेंडेंट का इतना दरकार नहीं. So audit and nomination should be independent. SR and risk can be headed by non-executive directors also. So the next question comes, then what is will be the quorum? See, yes, obviously quorum is a big question that comes into the mind. See, audit committee quorum, 1/3 or 2, whichever is higher. But the next line, if you read, which is there in the regulation 18, sub-regulation 2, that with 2 ID being present in the quorum. See, now recollect board. When I was talking about the board quorum, I said 1/3 or 3, whichever is higher, including 1 ID. I said that in every quorum, the LODR wants ID should be there. Similarly, here in the audit committee, this is 1/3 or 2. I'm not saying 3. In the committees, they are saying, okay, we will make it like board, 1/3 or 2, like as per the act board. So 1/3 or 2, whichever is higher, but 1 ID should be there. 1 independent director should come. So that is okay. In the nomination, they are keeping the same 1/3 or 2. But then here they are saying, since nomination is there, 1 ID will chalega. But in audit, they want 2. Why? Because in audit, they are having a majority independent director, 2/3. बहुमत है, बहुमत 2 तिहाई. So they are saying there they should come 2. In the nomination, 1 independent director should be in quorum. In the risk management committee and the SRC, interesting thing is that in the risk management, they are saying 1 director should be there. Because now you are forming a committee with the senior executive members also, and majority of directors will be there. But in case of quorum, at least 1 director should be there as a decency. But surprisingly, the SR, the Stakeholder Relationship Committee, has no such quorum defined. So, sir, हम लोग कैसे करेंगे? फिर एक्ट को फॉलो करेंगे. एक्ट में तो किसी भी कमेटी का quorum नहीं लिखा, राइट? ऑडिट कमेटी की बात छोड़ दो, तो एक्ट में तो SRC का quorum कहाँ डिफाइंड है? Not defined there. So then, sir, then as per SS, you have to define minutes, board minutes, or you have to define in the articles. In case you don't define it anywhere, then all the members should be present. So minuting करके आप उसको proper board से record करिए कि this quorum होगा. Otherwise, you will not be able to have the quorum. सर समझ गए सर, तो quorum requirement भी समझ गए. सर मीटिंग कितनी करनी होती है, कुछ कोई बताया ये लोग? Yes, they had said there is a frequency. Like audit committee, there can be 4. Why 4? Because every time I'm saying listed company है, result submit करेगा ही, result submit करेगा तो board से approved होगा, board साल में 4 बार मिलेगी. If board is meeting 4 times, audit committee has to meet 4 times. Audit committee is a very easiest way to remember, it is 4 times. Now rest, nomination and SRC, though act though silent is on this also, but LODRC is they should meet at least once in a year. Otherwise, if you are not making them once in a year, then tell me honestly, do you think I am sufficing the purpose of forming those committee? No. Then committee क्यों बनाया? Committee member आके बैठ गए बस? नहीं. You should meet once. But risk management committee, they have now amended it again and saying ये 1 नहीं है twice. क्यों? Risk management area is a very broader area. It requires a lot of like focus on the certain risk management framework of the company. So that they are saying they should meet twice, not once. And the cap shall not exceed 180 days. मतलब अगर एक रिस्क मैनेजमेंट की आज हुआ है तो 180 डेज के दिन दूसरा हो जाए. हाँ, बिकॉज साल में 365 डेज होते हैं तो दो आराम से हो जाएंगे इस बीच में. करेक्ट. यस सर, नाउ वी अंडरस्टूड कमेटी का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, आईडी का प्रेजेंस इन द quorum, frequency requirement. Sir, can you just take us through the brief glance of their role? Yes. See, this role is defined under the Schedule 2 Part C. I'm not just focusing, I'll not covering the entire area. If we have a question answer, we'll keep a one question answer session, no doubt, no worry. But then I would just like to tell you that we will take you through some of the key highlights area. Like, what are the key highlights area? The key highlights area, like audit committee is supposed to overview the audit process. They will oversee the loans investment. They will oversee the RPT. They will oversee the financial reporting. CFO role will be monitored by them. In fact, audit committee has the power to appoint the CFO, and the CFO should be recommended by them. They have a power to recommend their appointment. If they deny, then it's denied. So the power of audit committee. Why I'm emphasizing? Because the committees are having a big role under the LODR. In fact, I'll just highlight practically here. Under the ILFS case, one of the interesting case, the audit committee was held guilty. Why? Because the court says you have not discharged your duty due diligently, and they have held them responsible for 40. They were saying that you are the guilty audit committee members. That is the role I want to emphasize, that committee members also have a role to frame under the LODR. Like NR's committee, we all have read under the act, they have a power of evaluation. They should determine that who will become a director. These are all things that you have covered under the act, like evaluation, performance, etc. What is new? The bullet number 2. They should form a policy on board diversity. So see, first thing we discuss in the morning, policy on document. Now, policy on diversity of director. That means the director should come from different areas. It should not be like director, all directors are finance expert, all directors are legal expert. Directors should have a different area. And diversity include the gender diversity. Women directors should be encouraged on the board. They should frame this policy. And this is, in fact, I will correlate with one reason more. In annual report, we all know we have to give a reference of all the directors' caliber, all the directors' performance we highlight in the all the directors' particular core area we highlight in the annual report, corporate governance report, and that is coming from the diversity policy, right? The next obviously comes under the role of SR committee. If you see, SR committee is equally responsible. They are responsible for resolving the grievances. They are responsible for review of measures. So if, say, for example, if shareholders' grievance is not addressed, apart from the compliance officer, in fact, the stakeholders, this relationship committee can be held responsible. That is what their duty is, right? The next goes to the risk management committee. So what is the risk management committee? See, risk management committee, again, we have discussed, this is the new committee coming in picture for top 1,000 companies now, having another senior executive as a member also. This committee is responsible for policy framework, how the plan is implemented. And see, they have a power relating to appointment of chief risk officer. Like audit committee was having a power of chief financial officer, they are having a power of chief risk officer appointment and removal. And apart from the risk management committee, even the entire board is responsible for governing the risk framework. And that is why, they are required to meet twice instead of like other committees, which are required to meet once. Correct? So now I will make a move to the next 4 slides. But these 4 slides, I will say more or less for your action. Why I brought or included these 4 slides, next 4 slides? These are the minimum information to be placed before the board. Why I just would like to highlight. What happened is that in most of the cases, we all are working in the listed entities, most of us. We don't know that what are the basic information that board should know at any cost. We hardly look at the part 2, which itself says part 2 of the LODR. We say that minimum information to be placed before the board and every quarter, but we hardly bother. See, it includes like you're giving compliance certificate. I will not worry about the compliance certificate because compliance certificate is covered under the Companies Act also, that a yearly compliance certificate, quarterly compliance certificate should be given. Yes, I agree. But apart from the compliance certificate, you need to give the budget. You need to give them about the briefing of plan. You need to give them the information on the recruitment of senior officers, just one level the below the board. See, CFO, CEO, CRO, Chief Risk Officer, they all are going through board, but then there may be like vice president, executive president, one level below the board. So if they are getting appointed by the management, place those information before the board. That is required. Then you are required to inform the board of suppose notices you have received. Any incident happen in your company or maybe in your plant, maybe in manufacturing unit, but we hardly bother. In many companies, sorry, in many companies they miss it out. So please make sure that you do take care of those minimum information to be placed before the board. Similarly, if you go to the next, it also says that if you have made any payment towards the goodwill, brand, equity, or if there is any labor problem in your company. Say, for example, labor are saying, "Hamari mange puri karo." We all know that sabki mange puri karo. So that workers are demanding some charter. They are saying, no, this has to be done. So that payment, if you have made any, or sorry, that significant problem is there, that should be. If your company has implemented any voluntary retirement scheme, say for example, they are saying people can take retire at 50 and will get a salary for next 3 years. So all those informations to be informed to the group. Similarly, next page, you will see non-compliance related information will also be informed to the board. Now, having said that, one question will come into mind. Sir, whatever say things you have told me, I heard of you, like I heard the entire things very clearly. You have started with the common obligation. Then you have mentioned about a board constitution. Then you mentioned about the one ID resign, one ED resign, what will happen. You have also mentioned about the maximum number of directors seat. You have also mentioned about the maximum number of committee members seat. You have mentioned about the various committee frequency, quorum, etc. You have also mentioned about the committee rules, the rules. But sir, what if I do not comply? Who's going to monitor? Who is going to know this information? Then CB says, I'm here. Because if you look at the screen, the listed entities are required to submit a quarterly compliance report. Quarterly compliance report. And there is a particular format. It should again be given within 21 days from the end of each quarter. Now the catch is here. Earlier it was 15 days. Why, sir, they have made 21? See, Sebi has recently on 5th of May 2021, as sir was also said at the very beginning, many amendments were brought in. One of the key amendment is that uniform all the compliances. Because if you make this 15, 21 नहीं जाते थे. In fact, exam के point of view से मैं हमेशा बोलता था कि why they give this kind of a different timeline. So students should be very happy if they are there watching this and hearing us. That for them, they have made it 21. So now, investor grievance report 21. Don't talk about share transfer agent wala certificate. See, share transfer agent wala certificate is annual compliance. And that is why for the annual compliance, there is a timeline of 30 days from the closure of financial year. Earlier it was half yearly. Now it has become yearly compliance. Share transfer agent, earlier one, the first one we have studied. Thereafter we have studied the grievance report you have to give in quarterly within 21 days. Now see, CG report also I have, also it was made 21 days. So 21, 21 will remember very easily. Yes. Now one interesting very few before we complete, again there is a 21. See, SEBI has a regulation 31, which says a minimum public shareholding should be maintained. And we all know minimum public shareholding in terms of SCRA Act, Securities Contract Commission Act, and the rules read thereunder is minimum 25%. Right? In some cases, 10% is there, but if it is 10%, you have to increase up to 25. That is a rider there. So in any case, it has to be 25%. Plus, SEBI says very clearly that your entire promoters holding should be in demat mode. Entire promoters holding. Even if your promoter shareholding is not in demat mode, your shares will be frozen by SEBI. So promoter share have to be in the demat form. तो सर ये सब भी करने के लिए मॉनिटर कौन करेगा सर? हम तो नहीं बताएंगे, थोड़ी ना सेबी को पता चलेगा. What are you saying? How come SEBI will come to? See, SEBI is saying I am a watchdog. I'll keep a tab on your every activity. Like I took a report of grievance redressal. I took a report of share transfer activity agent. I took a report of your board of corporate governance. Similarly, I will take a report of shareholder. And आपको shareholding की report देनी पड़ती है quarterly within 21 days from the end of a quarter. Right? The second one, the second tab that you see, that says 21 days from the end of quarter. Now, नीचे तीन bullet दिख रहे हैं. You can see three box there. Out of that, the middle one is quarterly basis. Why I brought first middle one? Because quarterly compliance is an ongoing compliance. Every year you have to do, every quarter you have to do. So see, it is also 21. CG report 21. Investor grievance 21. Sir, what are the other two boxes? Other two boxes are in shareholding pattern. Many of us are not aware that shareholding pattern is not quarterly. In fact, shareholding pattern can be triggered in some circumstances. Like if you look at the first box, it says 1 day prior to the listing. So if I'm considering listing, I will submit in 1 day in advance. Right? So shareholding pattern will be 1 day prior to the listing. In any case, beside the quarterly compliance. Right? And even if I say, for example, I got listed, now I am submitting quarterly reports. So now there will be everything okay? No. Even in that third box, if you read, if there is a restructuring which results in 2% change, for example, my company has gone for a scheme of arrangement, etc., or my company has issued a number of shares on a preferential allotment to anybody, because of which my shareholding has changed. Because yes, of course, say for example, I am holding 10% of the shares of the company, but that company has given many shares to a particular private investor. Now my shareholding will dilute, of course, right? It will dilute from 10, it will come down because earlier it was 10%. Now it will come down. So from 10, if it comes to 9, but if it goes to 7, means exceeding 2%, whether it's a dilution or whether increase in holding. So if it goes more than 2%, I need to make a within 10 days. Within 10 days, I will submit the quarterly shareholding pattern. So this is what all about the shareholding pattern. And today's one, like here also is mentioned that SME stock exchange, because some people were there keeping saying SME, SME. Of course, SME is the area like they're having some strict exceptional requirement. For SME, it is a half yearly basis, right? So these are the things that we wanted to cover today, because we all know pretty well that Sebi Lodr is a very vast and very interesting as well if you read it very gradually and sensibly. And yes, of course, it does take time to have a thorough understanding, but we tried our best to cover those many aspects, starting from the common obligation, that means applicable for all, then moving towards the board and committee. Under the board, told you about the combination, then told you about the director's obligation, maximum directorship, maximum committee membership, given you a brief about the committees, and then corporate governance report and shareholding pattern. All are 21 now. Quarterly compliances are 21. Parallelly, we completed quarterly compliances. And one more thing I would like to add, that in the CG report, you know that quarterly when you are giving, when it comes the period of 31st March, then the CG reports got so extensive that it will ask you every compliance of the LODR. When you will go to the portal to submit online reports, year-based report, when you will submit after 31st March, it will require to tick every compliance of the compliance. If you are not putting a tick, you are non-compliant, and then there will be penalty. So this is what I wanted to cover today, and I think we have covered well in time, maybe a bit late as we started as 5-6 minutes late. I hand it over to sir. Sir, for your words, over to you. Sir, if you can hear me. Is just connecting in between. Like I was seeing some queries, like some people were having saying that in case of SR equity shares, like special right equity shares, we understand that the audit committee will not be 2/3, rather they will be more than 2/3. In case of SR special right shares, sir, I have asked you to unmute. You may try now. Even I was not able to focus because I think he was on mute. So what I said, SR के case में, you will require the entire audit committee member as independent. Some people are having a question that if chairperson is NED, then no requirement to be the ID. Yes, of course, you will require ID in any case. See, for example, ID will be triggering in any case. If NED is a chairperson, then your ID should be 1/3. And if sir, over to you. If
Yeah, am I audible, Ravi, now?
yes, sir. Yeah, right now you're audible. Earlier, it was.
I think all of us are spellbound, especially with the energy and simple presentation. I think this was one of your best presentation. I know you since last 15 years, since 2007, 14
Yes,
years.
yes.
But this was, I think, one of your best presentation I've ever attended. And I think the same view must have been, everyone must have felt the same. And so we are waiting for the second session tomorrow, Sunday, that is 6:30 p.m. same time. And if we are not able to cover the entire session tomorrow, we might take the third session as well, because some query session must be taken after we complete the Sebi Lodr regulations. Thank you so much,
Yes,
Ravi.
sir. Fully agree. And thank you so much, sir. We can't see you, but we can hear you very well.
Yeah.
And nonetheless, you all have sir's number, because in case you have missed the presentation, then we will share the same. And it is our endeavor, because as you rightly said, sir, tomorrow, because of your lot of queries coming in between for the SME and SR rights equity shares, it's better that we may consider of it in further going into 2 more branches.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
It's our pleasure.
So we can close now, sir?
Yeah, we can.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.